So, Professor Kusum, Professor S.K. Soni, Dr. Nikhil, and everybody who is connected live, we are into the. I am very happy to tell that we will be completing 1 month today of the AMI CU and Department of Microbiology weekend lecture series. So we conducted 8 webinars. Today is the 8th webinar of that series. So, and successfully, right in the outset, I thank everybody for the support, the huge support everybody has given. So, especially to Professor Prince Sharma, Professor Kusum Arjai, Dr. S.K. Soni, and all others who joined live. So, and next month also we will continue with this series. Now, coming to today's lecture, first of all, I request Professor Kusum Arjai to give a welcome note to the speaker and to all the people who have joined live with us. Professor Kusum Arjai, please. मैडम आपका माइक ऑफ है. डॉक्टर कुसुम आपका माइक ऑफ है.
Sorry. Thank you, Dr.
Yes.
Naveen. I am also very happy that you have shared the information that we have successfully completed 1 month. So congratulations to AMI and Department of Microbiology. It's a joint venture. So today we have again joined for the seminar and the journal club series. I welcome all the respected faculty of colleges and university who have joined us, and the whole audience, including students, research scholars. My special welcome is to Dr. Nikhil, who is GN Nikhil, who is a professor in Department of Biotechnology, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar National Institute of Technology, Jalandhar. So we welcome you, sir, for this lecture series, and I hope our audience will enjoy your lecture and they will enhance their knowledge by your updates. Thank you.
Thank you.
Professor Nikhil, please.
So before Dr. Nikhil start, I will request Professor S.K. Soni to read the CV of Dr. Nikhil so that our listeners know our speaker today in detail. Professor S.K. Soni, please.
Thank you, Dr. Naveen Gupta. We have with us Dr. G.N. Nikhil, who is an assistant professor in the Department of Biotechnology at B.R. Ambedkar National Institute of Technology, Jalandhar. He pursued his doctoral research work at Bioengineering and Environmental Science Laboratory, CSIR, Indian Institute of Chemical Technology, Hyderabad, India. He was awarded the CSIR Senior Research Fellowship for carrying out his PhD research. Dr. Nikhil was conferred with a prestigious awards such as Bharat Ratna, Kamaraj Memorial Young Scientist Award by Kamaraj College of Engineering and Technology, Madurai, Bharat Vikas Award by Institute of Self-Reliance, and AUCBT Excellence Award by Biotech Research Society of India for his scientific contributions. He has received several international travel grants to present his research work at international conferences. He has won 3 Best Paper Awards in different conferences. His area of research is biofuels and biochemicals production through fermentative and bioelectrochemical strategies. He has published about 20 research papers in peer-reviewed journals and has 4 book chapters. So with these words, I now invite Dr. G.N. Nikhil to start his lecture. So Dr. Nikhil, please.
Thank you so much, sir, for the nice introduction. Yes, sir. I'll share the slides.
Discussion. I also request Professor Soni to conduct today's session as I have to leave for another meeting. So you have to kindly. So I have to leave for another meeting. Dr. Soni will conduct the rest of the session. Thank you.
Don't worry. We'll do the needful. Thank you very much. So please, Dr. Nikhil, you can start, please.
Yes, sir. On the outset, I would like to thank the organizers, Professor Soni sir, Professor Naveen Gupta sir, and Professor Kusum Arjai ma'am for giving me this opportunity to give the presentation. The presentation topic would be microbial fuel cells, the next generation power. Sir, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the contents of the presentation would be in this flow. I start with some introduction, giving about the need of energy and the situation in the global worldwide, and then give the introduction about microbial fuel cells and its mechanisms, and then I will let you know the factors that are influencing on the power generation, and then I will present a brief work that which I have carried out during my doctoral studies, and I will also present the future scope of the microbial fuel cells, which is the next generation power. Starting with the introduction, so this is the data which I have taken from Statistical Review of Energy 2019. This is the global energy used by source. Here you can see on the x-axis, that is the timeline every year, starting from 1993 to the current 2018 data, 2019 data. And on the y-axis, you can see the data which is in million tons of oil equivalent. That is the world consumption of different fuels which we are currently using. That majorly we know that the society is majorly depending on the fossil fuel based energy, that is basically coal, and you can see the amount of usage in terms of oil equivalent, and further you can see the amount in hydroelectric, nuclear energy, natural gas, oil, and you can see a thin line in orange and saffron, that is the energy that is contributed from the renewable sector, right? And hopefully it is increasing from past decade, and it will continue to rise hopefully with the amount of research and technology that is being developing. Next, I would like to share some global data of primary energy demand. This data was taken from Global Energy Outlook 2020, very recent data. Very interesting. You can see the data from 1990 to 2020, the thick bold line, which is increasing exponentially. And then you can see the predictions that were made by different agencies, energy agencies, from 2020 to 2050. And you can see some of them are dark dotted lines, which shows those are the policies or the estimates from the current values, the data, previous data. They are trying to simulate and see how the projections are. And there are some ambitious policies they are trying to, during the convention meetings, United Nations convention meetings, they are trying to put up some proposals, some energy strategies where probably, there are some, predictions where the values also go down. So this is quadrillion British thermal units, the energy that is being utilized, that is the energy demand. And there's another data of global net and carbon dioxide emissions. The reason that I'm sharing this data is that, very well, as I told in the beginning, that society is fossil fuel based society, right? And upon combustion, we know very well there is carbon dioxide is a major end product that we are getting, and it's also a greenhouse gas emission. And this data also taken from Global Energy Outlook 2020, very recent data. You can see the thick bold line increasing. And after that, again, there are some predictions made by different energy agencies, and there are some policies that are mentioned, and they are expecting ambitiously that in another, 20 to 30 years, the values of carbon dioxide will be mitigated, and maybe using green technologies. And one such technology I'm going to present in this talk. This is the carbon dioxide concentrations, once again shown in terms of ppm. So this is the data available at Scripps Institute of Oceanography in UC San Diego. So they measure the global carbon dioxide concentrations, which is called as Keeling curve. And you can see the data, every hourly data is being measured, and this is the very recent data, 7th August 2020. And you can see actually there was a report also, and there is a news article which was very astonishing, and it was very alarming. They were saying that the concentrations of global concentrations have gone beyond 415 ppm, and if you see even the current data, it is still rising. So this is a very important observations that has to be made. Another interesting data which I would like to share globally is that taken from the International Energy Agency Paris, France. So they have presented in their report that the global water withdrawal in energy sector by fuel type in sustainable development scenario from 2016 to 2030. On the left hand side, you can see here, and these legend you can see the contributions that from where this water withdrawal is basically used. So the water is also used in some processes, right? So these are the different processes where the water is being utilized. In 2016, this is the scenario, and this is 2020. This is the scenario that they are predicting that the withdrawal will be reduced because billion cubic meters of water will be reduced. And on the right side, if you see, there is another graph. This is the global water consumption in energy sector by fuel type in sustainable development scenario 2016 to 2030. So again, these are the areas where the water is being consumption. So this is withdrawn, out of which certain part is only consumed and certain part is again, as some water is being discharged or recycled. So only which is being consumed in the process, the data is mentioned here. In 2016, you can see the data here, and in 2030, it is expected the consumption will be rising because the energy demand will be high. So naturally, the consumption of water also will be high. So I have the data. If you see here, interestingly, for the biofuels, the renewable energy component, if you see here, the primary energy, the blue bar here in the stacked column is basically the biofuels. And you can see there's a good amount of utilization of water for the biofuels. So can you guess where exactly biofuels require this? So if you see the research review of literature, so basically most of the biofuels currently, which are the second generation, third generation biofuels, they are basically depending on the food crops or the agricultural biomass. If not the food crop, maybe the non-food crop, that is basically the agricultural residues. So agriculture, when as agriculture comes into the picture, so naturally there would be a utilization of water, right? The clean drinking water which is required. So that's how the consumption is also increasing. So there is another point that has to be noticed here is that we have to look for a different kind of a strategy where energy would be sustainable and green. At the same time, the water utilization would be minimized, because you can see here the water energy challenge, energy water challenge, which was given by the World Bank in 2012. We say that by 2035, the global energy consumption will increase by 50%, water consumption by 85%, right? And still we see every summer whenever we see there, especially like India, like countries, there is huge amount of scarcity of drinking water, right? So with this information, I would like to consolidate saying that basically it's a water, energy, climate nexus, right? This all three are interlinked. So if we are trying to play with water, that is like utilization of water and discharging used water in the form of effluent, right, without treatment, then there would be pollution that would happen. There would be a scarcity. There immediately there would be a demand, and accordingly, if there is a utilization of excess of amount of energy from the fossil fuel base, then there will be again leading to scarcity. Again, scarcity will result in demand, and upon combustion of this fossil fuel base results in carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases, right? And finally resulting in climate change. So all these three are interlinked, and I think all of you are aware about this young girl who has raised the voice in last meeting 2019 COP25 United Nations. Every year they conduct this meeting basically to discuss about the progress, about how the energy, alternate energies have to be bought, and how the greenhouse gas emissions majorly how they have to be reduced. And this year, because of this current pandemic situation, the meeting has been postponed to next year for 2021 as COP26. And now I would like to go into my research, one of the main topic, that is the microbial fuel cells. So microbial fuel cell typical construction, if you would see, so this is the typical construction of microbial fuel cell. Microbes, these are the mixed consortia of microbes, a schematic diagram. And this is the fuel cell. Fuel cell is nothing but like a battery. Battery is something, is a storage device. Fuel cell is something that which is running in live condition, where you have connected something in some load, some bulb or some kind of load where you're trying to utilize the electricity or the power that is being generated. So this initial concept was actually proposed by MC Potter in 1911 actually, and using an earthen pot, basically the pot which we use for storing the water in the villages, right? So that using that pot, she was filled with some two different types of electrodes, different materials. We know that in basic chemistry that when you take two different materials, their electrochemical potentials will be different. And when you connect it with an electrolyte, and there is a difference in potential that is forming, and difference in potential will result in flow of electrons, and accordingly when you connect to a load, then you can see there is a power that is being generated. Having known that concept, since then there were so many other concepts and modifications, and further slowly there was constructions of such microbial fuel cells. And now I can say that as we proceed, by end of this talk we will realize how the change has been made from the microbial fuel cell in the current situation. So this is how the microbial fuel cell basically looks like. You have an anode electrode here at the bottom, right? So basically you have another cathode. So here at the anode you have this bacteria sticking over this electrode to form a biofilm, and here you get the oxidation reactions happening where the substrate or the nutrients which are present in that medium, electrolyte medium, it will be utilized by this bacteria, and in return during the metabolism it releases electrons and protons and other metabolites. And when you connect this anode over the cathode, the electrons start flowing from the anode to cathode, and you can see here if there is a load connected, you will be able to harvest the power and utilize for some applications. Having known the typical microbial fuel schematic, I'll move on to the mechanism in detail, much more specifically. So here you can see the electrodes, two electrodes, anode and the cathode. Usually the membranes are separated by a proton exchange membrane, PEM. Right? This PEM is basically, it's a Nafion membrane, and which is actually pre-treated and accordingly used. The reason for using this pre-treated membrane is that the protons which are present, they are effectively transferred from the one side of the medium towards the other side of the medium or the electrode, that is towards the cathode for the reduction reaction. Here you can see the bacteria. This is the outermost surface of the bacteria, the membrane, outer membrane of the bacteria. Here you can find the membrane bound proteins such as cytochromes, right? Some transport proteins are present, and also there are some kind of pili-like structures. Those are called as nanopairs. We'll see that in detail. So basically, electron transfer basically takes place by three ways, right? Direct electron transfer, indirect electron transfer, and the based on nanowires. Nanowires is also sometimes referred to the direct electron transfer. So you can see the metabolism. Suppose you give glucose as a substrate. So upon degradation by glycolysis and some other metabolic pathways, resulting into finally carbon dioxide and water. And during this metabolic process, there are so many oxidation reduction processes happening. And during this process, you get the electrons and protons that has been generated. And these are shuttled out. The protons are shuttled out. The electrons are shuttled out from the bacterial membrane, and these electrons, when these bacteria start forming a biofilm, they stick over to the anode electrode. Because of the potential difference between the anode and cathode, the electron is taken by this anode material, and when it is connected to the cathode, and accordingly the electrons reach towards the cathode. Simultaneously, to complete the reaction, the protons also, they drive from the, because of the concentration difference, they drive from the anode side towards the cathode side, forming finally oxygen, which is present in the open, means the cathode is exposed to air, oxygen, so you get the oxygen reducing into the H2O. H plus comes from here, and the electrons come here, and finally you form H2O. Okay? So it is very important to maintain this potential difference. Right? And use this particular membrane. There were studies where we have also included this membrane, because the reason being membranes are expensive in nature. We'll see that the later stages of life. So this is some bacteria are also they reduce the minerals or metals which are present. So these are also metal reducing bacteria, and this is for the graphical image also. And another, I just want to show you the interfacial views. So if you see the engineering point of view, that was from the microbial point of view. This is from the engineering point of view. If you see that at the anode surface, at the electrode surface, there is basically a triple phase boundary. What is the triple phase boundary? It is solid, liquid, and gas boundary. How is it? So you have the bacteria, that is the solid, and the liquid is the electrolyte, right? And the medium substrate is involved in it, and the oxygen, which is you know, that is at the cathode, you have the oxygen at the cathode side for the completing the reactions. That is why you have the solid, liquid, gas triple phase boundary that is being formed here. Even the H plus also ions also forms the gas at the anode side. Right? So here the electron transfer, as I told, either it could be by direct electron transfer if this bacteria is sticking over to this as a a biofilm, or you can use a nanowire, or it could produce some mediators like some Pseudomonas species are known to produce some kind of some compounds like for in search of iron molecules, right? So these molecules are also act as mediators for especially the transport of the electrons, right? So this is about towards the engineering point of view. This is the molecular view. One of the species which is well known, two species are well known for this electrogenesis. One is the Geobacter species, the other one is Shevella species. And more or less, if you see the molecular view, basically you have the inner membrane, periplasmic space, and the outer membrane. And these are some of the membrane-bound proteins. And this is especially for the Shevella species, which was explored very in detail. So these are some of the membrane proteins which are helping to excrete or shuttle these electrons from the inside the bacteria towards the outer environment, and finally it reaches the electrode, and there from there the anode towards the cathode it goes. So this is the from point of electrochemistry. You see that is the total energy, that is delta standard energy is equal to the potential at cathode minus potential at anode. So greater is the potential difference, greater is the electron drive, and better is your electricity production. And when you connect to optimum load, then you get good amount of power as well. Now, having known the mechanism and the concept, I would like to say that for the criteria, there's some criteria that is being referred in the literature to improve the electricity. Basically, we are talking about electricity in terms of the current. Right? So you have the PERT diagram here shown. So the bioelectrodes with high volumetric current density, right? This is ampere per meter cube. So that could be like the ways that high microbial accessible specific surface area, high aerial current density based on true anode surface, right? You can go in either of this. So if you are going in this particular way where you are trying to increase the microbial surface area, then you need to do this structure designing. You should have pore size, pore shapes, microporosity, accessibility, and that will be leading to macro scale porous electrode for internal colonization, right? The biofilm will form as a colony, form as a biofilm. So at the same time, it should not clog the electrodes, because on long time operation, clogging is one of the serious issues for the electron transfer. At the same time, if you want to increase the aerial current density, then you need to do surface design modifications. Like it should have good conductivity properties, roughness, biocompatibility, microporosity, hydrophilicity, and charge storage should be there. At the anode surface, there is a cloud of electron. So that property should have for a better microbial fuel cell. The affinity for this, the affinity of electrode surface at the microbial attachment and extracellular electron transfer. This will help if you change the design. This will help in the attachment, finally resulting in the better current densities. So this is the very interesting multidisciplinary challenge. That is why I work with microbial fuel cells. Here it is being a biotechnologist, it's a multidisciplinary area where, you should have knowledge about several disciplines, or in fact, maybe we can also have a group or a team working together of different disciplines. How is that? Like you can see, this is the microbial fuel cell construction, double chamber with a membrane. So here you should initially have an idea of basic electrochemistry, that is in terms of bioelectrochemistry, because the biological organisms are involved, because the electrochemistry is slightly different than the that is there with respect to the when the biological organisms come into the picture. Then you should have the idea about some engineering concepts, how to place the electrodes, how far the electrodes have to be placed from the membrane. You should also have idea about the metabolism, what kind of biochemistry, how is the metabolism taking place, what are the products that are being formed. You would also have some idea about the material science, like what kind of electrodes have to be formed, and why those electrodes have to be chosen, right? And you should have some electrical chemistry background, right? End of the day, you need to analyze the samples of inlet and outlet and see how the performance of the system is there. And of course, my area is basically on environmental biotechnology. Basically, I try to use wastewater or waste as a substrate because contains good amount of organic matter, biodegradable organic matter, and that I want to utilize as a substrate. So it also have some environmental concern, environmental science background also should be there. And of course, yes, microbiology is an important point because we all deal with microbes, right? So this one figure would say that how they are interlinked and how the options are there for interdisciplinary branches also for pursuing research on microbial fuel cells. Yeah, I was sharing with regard to nanowires, right? So nanowires are this is nothing but conductive appendages. These are nothing but some pili-like structures, and they are present basically exclusively in the Geobacter and Shigella genera. Right? And recently, a lot amount of research is taking place in this nanowires. That is why I am giving emphasis on nanowires. And these pillar-like structures, they protrude from the surface of the bacteria. And basically, their functions are adhesion, movement, and biofilm formation. But recently, the research they have found that they are responsible for the electron transfer as well. Right? So these are some of the bacterial species. And what is the mechanism? Even this was also studied, and what they proposed two mechanism. One mechanism, they say that it has metal-like conductivity. Very interesting, right? So they have overlapping the chemistry. If you see the molecular chemistry of it, they have overlapping pi orbitals between the atoms and allows the electrons to be shared freely and flow between the orbitals, and because of which they start hopping. Second mechanism which they are saying is electron hopping method, which is often utilizes iron containing heme proteins. And because of this also, they have found that the electrons are hopping from one end to the other end because of the potential difference. Potential difference is the most important criteria, that is the driving force. Right? There are also, interestingly, other kind of bacteria, the D-sulfobulbaceae bacteria, which I mentioned here. So these are called as cable bacteria. These are found at the deep sediments, sea sediments, and these are basically, they have discovered as to be form centimeter long cables. You can see here the microscopic images here, long cable-like structures. Basically, so these are also found to conduct electricity, and a good amount of research is also taking place in this direction of utilizing the cable bacteria for bioelectricity generation. Having known the potential aspect of bioelectricity generation, yes, there are some challenges or issues, or maybe you can say it's losses. Technical term, we say bioelectrochemical losses. What is this? Basically, when you take a fuel cell, a battery, right? So it is expected when you close the battery with the positive, when you close the positive and negative terminal, it is usually expected theoretically that there should not be any drop in the cell voltage. It should be very straight line. But what happens in reality, we also see even with our the conventional chemical batteries, that there is a drop in the potential that happens when you connect it to the load. Similarly, you also see a drop in potential even in the microbial fuel cells. Starting, say, if the cell voltage is maximum cell voltage at without connecting the load would be if this is the value. Then when you start connecting the load, different loads, so you start seeing a decrease in the potential, and finally it drops to certain amount of potential, and beyond which no matter you try to increase the resistance, the amount of current that is being generated also will be this is finally restricts to this value. Initially I will be 0, that is the open circuit. We say this particular condition as open circuit means the both the terminals are open, and when you close it, then this is how. To get this graph, basically you need to conduct a polarization study. We say polarization study. So we take our multiple resistance, the variable resistance, and we connect it to the two terminals, and we start ramping the resistances from high resistance to the low resistance. So high resistance is almost equivalent to the open circuit where there is no transfer of electrons happening. As you start decreasing the resistance, there you can see the voltage being generated, and the voltage values start decreasing. So, according to the electrochemical studies, they have classified this polarization curve into three regions. One is the activation losses, second one is the ohmic losses, and the third region is the concentration losses. And there are several factors that are influencing these losses. Like for example, activation losses, if you see, like it depends on the type of electrode material or the catalyst which you are using, how conductive it is, electrode medium, how it is. Then coming to the ohmic losses, that is the amount of load that you are applying over a fuel cell. Right? Are you using the optimum load? And thirdly, it comes to the concentration losses. This is the as I told, when you are using biofilm, there is a possibility of clogging, there is a possibility of diffusional problems because bacteria grows with time. So there is a problem with when it forms layer over the other. So there is a diffusion problems of the substrate and the product that have been formed. Eventually, you can see the current density is also decreasing as you increase the resistance. So this is the information about the polarization curve. Yes, to monitor the performance of a microbial fuel cell, we have some electrochemical analysis that is being performed. So here is the schematic diagram of the fuel cell, right? So this is the biofilm that is formed over the electrode, and that electrode is said to be a working electrode, and that you connect to a potentiostat, and you use another two electrodes, that is reference electrode and a counter electrode, to close the circuit. Basically, counter electrode is to close the circuit. Reference electrode is basically to judge the potential difference between the working electrode and the counter electrode. Usually silver filtered electrode is usually used as a reference electrode. Right? So you try to do some studies. So what are those? Some of them are like the cyclic voltammograms, cyclic voltammetry, we say, or linear sweep voltammetry, LSW, right? Chronoamperometry, like this. As such, you have so many studies, but which is very commonly done is one is the cyclic voltammetry, and the second one is the electrochemical impedance spectroscopy. So this is another device. You will not get it using a potentiostat. There is another device, impedance spectroscopy, and using that impedance spectroscopy, you can get this profiles of this one. So the application in if you start applying the potential basically in the cyclic voltammogram, so you get this graphical cyclic voltammogram. So you apply the potential and you get the current, and you get this kind of oxidation and reduction currents, and the peak indicates the at that potential the electrons have been exchanged. That is called as peak potential. And similarly, if there is a perfect oxidation and reduction curve in a typical electrochemical, if you use pyridoxine, such kind of chemicals specifically, which will exactly oxidize and reduce, you get such kind of critical value. But in case of bioelectrochemical systems, it need not be exact redox reaction. Sometimes it would be only oxidation reaction, or sometimes it would be only reduction reactions. And there also you have different kinetics coming to picture, like quasi steady state, pseudo steady state, etc. Then you get from the cyclic voltammogram, out of one of the either anode side or the cathode side, you can, based on the requirement of your electron transport kinetics to study the electron transport kinetics, you can take the voltammogram and accordingly you can plot this Tefel plot. The software which is present along with the instrument has this feature of plotting this Tefel plot. So this is the Tefel slope. Basically, this Tefel slope is governed by the Butler-Voltman equation given here. Basically, this will tell you basically the slope, Tefel slope will tell you the amount of activation losses that is happening. It is important for us to estimate those losses. Why to estimate, I will let you know in the next slide. So it is important to know the performance of it. So this will tell the activation losses. Similarly, other ohmic losses and the concentration losses, you can get it through this electrochemical impedance spectroscopy, where you plot between the real, the resistance real axis versus the imaginary axis, and you typically try to apply frequency. So you need to fit this particular line according to the suitable circuits, and accordingly you will get to know the kinetics of the system. Yes, so this is basically why we are trying to study about the kinetics and about the system, microbial fuel cells. It is because to know the energy distribution, right? So there is a study done by Stanford University recently that if suppose whatever substrate which we are giving as a total chemical energy input, and say for example it to be 100%, finally if you see the net electrical energy that is being produced is hardly only 20 to 30% of the substrate, chemical substrate is actually converted to 20 to 30% of the electrical energy. And you can see here potential losses that is happening at different stages, right? At the energy, consumed, where the donors were oxidized at the oxygen, microbial energy production, electrical energy production. These are the losses. Microbial synthesis, activation losses, microbial metabolism, resistance, diffusions, etc. Cathodes, loss at cathode also do take place. Like that, say several reasons that were attributed. Having known this, there are some strategies that have been also proposed in some review literature. Says that if you want to enhance anode performance, so these are some of the strategies. Like you can see that basically you can make surface modifications, 3D architectures. Now that we have 3D printers, so there are some studies used 3D printers to produce the micro electrodes basically, and then you can optimize the separators. So if you're using the membranes, so either you can use some gel-like separators, and research has been done in this direction also, and you can reduce the cost also. You can reduce the internal resistances also by changing or optimizing the assembly, media concentration, etc. And then you can also increase the cathode performance. Cathode is also as equivalent, or maybe I can say more important than compared to the anode. The reason being that at the cathode, if there isn't good amount of ORR, that is oxygen reduction reactions happening at high rates, that is reduction reaction, then only the electrons will be driven from the anodes towards the cathode side. And here there are some reasons, and if you try to address this, if you take care of this, then probably you can improve your overall power output. Right. So microbial fuel cells, maybe to start with, it would be very small in size, resulting in some millivolts of voltage and milliwatts of power. So there are people who are, when it comes to real-time application, so millivolts or milliwatts of power is not sufficient for reasonable amount of application. So you can stack those microbial phases. You can connect it with series or parallel, and accordingly you can increase the overall voltage of the system or overall power of the system. But here also there is some challenge that when you stack the cells, even though you try to construct similar cells, there is a problem of voltage reversal that is happening, because microorganisms, we think that they are all in same phase, that is the growth phase is similar or the metabolism phase is similar. But in cell population point of view, if you see, naturally one cell would be acting different to another cell. So there would be certain difference amount of metabolism happening, resulting in difference in powers or voltages. And if you don't properly connect the cells in series or parallel, then it would result in this voltage reversal. And especially people from electronics background, they are trying to construct some circuit boards and circuitry. Some programs are written basically to find out the maximum power point and accordingly to improve the power outputs. This is basically my research outlook, which I have carried out at CSR Institute of Technology, Hyderabad. And basically, I work with acidogenesis, bioelectrogenesis, and bioelectrofermentation. Today, I will restrict my talk with microbial fuel cells and some part of data of bioelectrofermentation, because an advanced or maybe a modified version of microbial fuel cells is nothing but microbial electrochemical systems, which are used for some product recoveries and use recovery. So these are some of the different bioelectrochemical or bioelectrogenic technologies which we have published in a review article. You can go through that one. So basically, we started with microbial fuel cells, and then slightly we have made modifications and used for wastewater treatment, especially say bioelectrochemical treatment. For some value-added products, if you want, you use it as a bioelectrochemical system. And if you want only hydrogen or methane, such kind of products, you get microbial electrolysis cell. And if you want to do desalination work, you can use microbial desalination. So these are the different cells. Just construction is almost similar, slight modifications. These are the different technologies. Coming with my research work, so these are the microbial fuel cells that were constructed by me. But I would like to thank the workshop section at IICT. We were very fortunate. We bought the raw materials from the market, which is a local market, and we have given the design. And fortunately, we have an in-house workshop at IICT, and they are really skilled people. So if you just show the design and the dimensions, they will construct these microbial fuel cells. And I have used this in my doctoral work. And my basic objective, one of the objective in my doctoral research was basically to study the maximum power point. Means at what load the microbial fuel cells will result in good amount of power. Because power generation is like a, growth associated product kind of thing. Means as the substrate you feed, initially there would be a lag, and thereafter there would be, as the bacteria goes into the exponential phase. Similarly, as the substrate is consumed, the power generation is also increasing. And after certain time, once the substrate has gets limited, then you can see there is a decrease in the power generation. You can see the graph here, the power generation getting decreased. Right. So what I have done in this particular study is that I have taken different resistances and I have done polarization curves for these microbial fuel cells. And at one particular load, around 200 ohms, I have a 200 ohms, 0.2 kilo ohms, that is 200 ohm. I found that for these microbial fuel cells, it's not that every microbial fuel cell, it is for these microbial fuel cells of these dimensions, of this capacity, resulted in 200 ohms to give better power production. So long-term studies were carried out, and we have found that about 120 milliwatts per meter square of power density is generated when you run the microbial fuels at maximum power point. In continuation to that, we have also done some other analysis in support of our observations. This is anode potential data. We measure anode potential basically to see the, it's like a health parameter monitoring. Health in the sense the biofilm should be formed properly to get proper electricity generation. So lower is the anode potential values, better is your biofilm formation. And we have observed when you are using the optimum resistance, good amount of biofilm has been formed, resulting in good anode potential. And eventually, I have done certain empirical calculations based on the concept published by the Stanford University people. In my study, I tried to apply that. I have used initially to optimize glucose as the carbon source. So from glucose, if that is the given glucose source was 3 gram per liter, if I'm remembering correctly, so 3 gram per liter. So that resulting in electricity generation. Again, I also observed that it was about 15 or 18% of energy is actually produced in the form of electricity, and there is good amount of losses being observed. And these losses, again, by doing the polarization studies, we came to know this is the slopes of the curves. So this is the polarization curve which I have told you. So we have ramped at different resistances. This is the power curves. So at this is the maximum power. This is the maximum power that is produced by the fuel cells. And the slopes of this will tell you the losses which is there. So this is the losses, like you can see activation losses in green. This is the ohmic losses. This is the concentration loss. And in my study in microbial fuel cells running with glucose as a substrate, so concentrations losses were relatively high. The reason being that glucose is a very good substrate. So eventually after certain batches, good amount of biofuel has been formed, and that resulted in this concentration losses. So it is seriously we have to pursue research on how to reduce the biofuel concentration. There are some researches already carried out. So my perspective was to study the kinetics of it. So then what we have done is we try to change the fuel cell configuration itself because in earlier studies I have used graphite. The interest for graphite is the reason being it is cheap, widely available, and it's also it's inert. It doesn't react with any electrolyte medium, and that is the reason I have chosen graphite. And later on, as I refer the literature, people have cited that there are other carbon materials such as carbon cloth, carbon mesh, and graphene, graphite, carbon nanotubes. Like that, so much other materials have come into picture which have better conductivity and better performance. So another long-term study I have carried out, basically where I have made a comparison between anode and cathode being graphite, and again another combination anode and carbon cloth, and another combination with anode and carbon carbon cloth doped with carbon nanotubes, right? So eventually we got maximum power in with carbon nanotubes. This particular value 105.61 meter cube per meter square was the. So different circuitry modes we have operated, that is at open circuit, closed circuit, and open circuit. So at closed circuit, when you close it only, you will be able to calculate this power. P is equal to V into I. So that voltage will be calculated in terms of the load that is being applied. So the load was chosen was 200 ohms based on the previous study which we have optimized for the same microbial fuel cells. Sorry, this condition was the same, but only here the catholyte was changed. In earlier three cases, we have used only distilled water, but here we have used phosphate buffer just to check how the cathode performance is varying. We also carried out certain cell potential and polarization studies. We have found that in carbon nanotube, good amount of power generation was formed with less amount of slope of losses that is visible from the data which is here. These are the cyclic volt tomograms that I have carried out for my study, both in open, closed, and reopen studies. Means after closing, again we have reopened and then studied. So especially for carbon nanotubes, good amount of peaks were observed. That means the electron transfer has taken place. But exactly we cannot say whether it is because of the direct electron transfer or indirect electron transfer, for which again we need to conduct certain other studies, molecular studies, and then only we will be able to confirm. But yes, from the cyclic volt tomogram, we can say that there is electron transfer that is happening. Here also there is there. Here also it is there, but the peaks are not that clearly visible. But yes, there are currents that are being generated, both oxidative currents and production. That is about the microbial fuel cells. Then I would like to continue about microbial electrolysis. Microbial electrolysis is nothing but you try to apply potential over one of the electrode. Basically, microbial reactions are slow. So to increase the reaction rate and to reduce the thermodynamics, basically this microbial electrolysis strategy has come up. Basically, if you see in the literature, potentials are usually applied over the anode, where you take a abiotic anode with a platinum anode, and the cathode being some biological cathode. But in our study, my interest was to use both bio anode as well as bio cathode. This is one of the novelty. And here the reason why I have used a bio cathode is that I wanted to use the effluent, since I was also working with biohydrogen production. The effluent of biohydrogen production contains lot amount of volatile fatty acids like acetic acid, butyric acid, and phosphoric acid. So if you see from the wastewater treatment point of view, energy of course is important parameter. The other one is the treatment aspect. So if you see the substrate reduction, it would be hardly only 40 to 45% of substrate reduction. If your process is much more optimized, you may also go to 50 to 55%. But yes, after that you will find inhibition. The reason being the acids that have been formed during the anaerobic fermentation process. So my interest was to use those effluent containing the acetic acid, butyric acid in the anode chamber, and finally reducing finally those as a substrate anode, sorry, that would be the effluent would be the in the cathode chamber, that is the volatile fatty acid, and in the anode chamber I have taken the glucose which is forming the volatile fatty acids. So this effluent, after one batch, the effluent of anode will be utilized into the cathode, and this at the cathode the acetic acids are the acids, protein acids, they are converted into hydrogen. And here you can see the result which I have applied. So when you apply the potential, external potential, you get this reduction potential basically applied. So you get for the reduction reaction, that is hydrogen should form at the cathode. So we have applied potentials like minus 0.2, minus 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, and 1. At one particular potential, that is at 0.6, we have got good amount of gas. I say at biogas, the reason being we have both carbon dioxide, mixture of carbon dioxide and hydrogen. We have estimated using gas chromatography. And the reason not to go beyond 1 is the reason that above after 1.2 we have observed water electrolysis. So that is not a favorable reaction. So we have stopped at 1 volt. Right. So this is the understanding of this particular set. And we have also carried out another analysis to show that the volatile fatty acids are being utilized. One such analysis is the buffering capacity analysis. We have done the acid-base titration analysis for the inlet and outlet, and we have seen the peak of this particular curve, curve, whatever you see, that relates to the pKa value, that is acid dissociation constant for acetic acid. And we have seen that you can see the change in the peak areas corresponds to utilization of that acid for the conversion of formation of the hydrogen. Right. So at one particular value at 0.6, you can see good amount of reduction in peak area that corresponds to the utilization of acid for the hydrogen formation. The mechanism is as similar to that of the microbial fuel cell, but a slight change. Here you have the cathode reaction happening at the cathode, where again I say the bacteria, there is some specific bacteria, that is electrochemical active bacteria, that forms over the cathode as a biofilm, and accordingly the transport, as I told, either direct or indirect or the nanolayers. So electrons go into, and the substrate also along with the volatile fatty acids pass through the bacteria, and there is an hydrogenase enzyme in the plasmid space, although some specific consortia, which will convert H plus ions into molecular hydrogen. And this hydrogen is again evolved back into the head space of the reactor, and accordingly you can collect it. Yes, another reactor which we have studied this was biocatalyzed electrochemical system. This is the schematic diagram of it. So our interest was to produce both electricity as well as hydrogen in a single reactor. Was it possible? Yes, it was possible in this particular system. But yes, the efficiencies were relatively less compared to the other individual reactors. So here we also removed the membrane because we found that membrane is one of the constraint for the economics for the large scale. So we have removed. This is the membraneless system, and we have operated in different circuitry modes: open circuit mode, short circuit mode, and closed circuit mode. Short circuit is nothing but if you don't connect any resistance directly, you fuse both anode and cathode terminals, you get short circuit mode. And this is the reactor, and this you can see the biofilm that is being formed especially at this particular reactor at closed circuit 300 ohms. For this also we have done optimization and finally come to this particular load of 300 ohms. So this is the data which we have found. It was very interesting that we have observed both hydrogen production also, and also the power in terms of open circuit voltage. And when you closed it, we also got the power generation. You can see the data of both open circuit voltage as well as the power density. And this is the hydrogen that is being formed. About 300 ml of hydrogen production was seen in this particular reactor. This is a 1 liter reactor with 600 ml of working volume and 300-400 ml of its space. And we have also done certain empirical calculation to show the yield, specific hydrogen yield with respect to the substrate that is being utilized. So we have observed that the yield is higher in terms of when we operate the reactor with closed circuit. And then we also have done some electron distribution empirical analysis. Some formulas were available in the review literatures, some literatures published already. So we have also carried out for our study also to see basically the electrons which are generated whether were utilized for the power generation, whether it was utilized for biomass formation, or whether it is utilized for the hydrogen production. You can see here that the different stacking. So especially for the closed circuit operation, there is good amount of electricity generation and good amount of hydrogen production and very minimum biomass formation. In fact, this is the condition which we actually require, because we don't require more amount of biomass. Already anaerobic fermentation, the growth would be slower, and further when you start putting the organism on stress, especially when you start putting them to forcing them to produce such products like electricity, hydrogen, so the biomass formation will be obviously. Another study which I have carried out was on microbial desalination. So I have constructed a triple chamber microbial desalination cell. So this work was a part of a European project which my supervisor had, Neoligo project, and this particular concept was proposed and worked with both the photo desalination cell as well as microbial desalination compared to study was made. There was a young scientist competition conducted in 2015. I was one of them who was shortlisted and presented this work there. I was fortunate and it was a nice exposure. And here, basically, if you see in the microbial desalination cell, it is almost the same of microbial fuel cell, but the slight change is that you have the middle chamber, the saline water having here, and you have, instead of the proton exchange membranes, you have the anion exchange membrane and the cation exchange membrane. And because of the potential differences and the electrochemical differences and the concentration differences, three are the major reasons. So you can see the exchange of ions that is happening. So you have the sodium chloride have taken, so we have different concentrations. You can see the chloride ion diffusing into at the anode side, and the sodium ion going towards the cathode side. And here in the anode side, you use the wastewater. We have designed synthetic feed, that is carbon source would be glucose and other mineral salts. And at the cathode, we have used a photosynthetic algae, mixed microalgae was used. Our lab, I'll just show you. Our lab is, it works on different areas of research. So some people working on algae. So I have taken the mixed microalgae. Accordingly, that formed a bioclean for it. And because of the concentration difference, potential differences between two electrodes, and electrochemical differences, the electrons were driving from the anode towards the cathode. And similarly, for the microbial desalination cell, the mechanism is similar. The only difference is here at the cathode, it is abiotic. Only distilled water was used, and aeration was provided for the reduction reaction. This is the construction and mechanism, and these are some of the results. This was at the last ending phase of my PhD in 2015-2016. So I have done a very limited amount of work. So I have measured the open circuit voltage and closed circuit voltages. I have done COD and TDS measurements, that is the salts, how the reduction in salts that is happening. And I have observed, especially with abiotic cathode, the system performance was better than compared to the biotic cathode, because again, the kinetics comes into the picture and several other reasons come into the picture for the differences in the performance that is happening. So here are the conductive measurements, how it is there in open circuit and closed circuit, initial and final readings. When you start the cell and when you end the cell, so there is a difference in the conductivity. And as I told, my lab at IICT, basically I was fortunate to work there under the guidance of Dr. S. Mohan sir and Dr. Y.V. Swami sir. So the lab basically works on a biorefinery concept where different works, we work in a team, a different group of students and researchers are there, postdoctoral fellows are also there, project assistants are there. We form a team, short small teams, and we work in different topics. And I worked on electricity formation, microbial fuel cells, and biohydrogen production. So the other groups which worked in different platforms, and we have communicated one of the review article, a very interesting review article and well cited paper, where we have shown different models how that can be made, and this is the holistic biorefinery model. And this is the article which I was trying to cite. I would request the participants who are interested may refer this article. We have also received one high impact award also from BRT. And future opportunities, before I conclude, yes, microbial fuel cells it has a very bright future. As you see here, basically this man is Professor Ionis Aeropoulos from Bristol Research Laboratory, UK, and he has basically constructed these microbial fuel cell robots. These are the first generation microbial fuel cell robots, and the power was utilized in running the clock without a battery, and later on he stacked the microbial fuel cells into a robot which would do some application of movement. He showed some videos. You can see his website, and it's also he basically used urine as the source of the substrate, and that connected to electricity. And now he has a lot amount of research, and he's probably starting with the commercial startups are also there from his research group. And there are other groups from Bruce Logan from Penn State University, US, and also there is a good amount of groups. A group from Derek Lovely, Professor Derek Lovely from US. There is good groups from Cornel Rabe from US, Ghent University, Belgium. Like that, there several groups are there which are working on different platforms. So one such area, Professor Derek Lovely is working intensively on geobacter species, that is on nanoviruses. He has done, he has completely studied on the nanoviruses, its protein, synthetic biology of it, and now they are proposing that these nanoviruses, protein nanoviruses, could replace the silicon material and can be used in motherboards, chips, and all. You can see Silicon Valley use completely, it's all the silicon, based on silicon. That is the computers, hardware, any circuit board you see it is mainly containing the silicon. And after utilizing, there is a lot amount of e-waste that is being generated. So if we can use these protein nanoviruses, which are highly conductive and green and biologically eco-friendly in nature, then we can replace potentially the silicon, and good amount of research is going on globally. And I would like to thank, this is my team. This is Professor Dr. S. Venkat Mohan. He's a principal senior fellow, innovation fellow, SSB awardee as well. He is Dr. Y.V. Swami sir. He's now also led as chief scientist head of the department. So I worked under the guidance of both the scientists. And this is the complete team of my lab working on different platforms. And these are the analytical staff who help in analysis like HPLC, GC, and other analysis. And before I conclude, I would like to thank Professor Prince Sharma sir, for President EMI CU, and the coordinators, Professor S.K. Soni sir, Vice President EMI CU, Dr. Naveen Gupta sir, Secretary EMI CU, Professor Kusum Harjai, Chairman, Department of Microbiology from the University, and also the co-coordinators. I would also thank Dr. Kanti Kiran Kanchapudi contacting me. Also, I would once again thank Dr. Naveen Gupta sir for giving me this fantastic opportunity. And I suppose you all enjoyed the talk. And thank you. This is a beautiful campus of NIT Jalandhar. I would like to invite all the participants and faculty who are available online to kindly make visit after the post-COVID situations to NIT Jalandhar for some other event at biotechnology department or some department or any other departments at NIT Jalandhar. I am open for any kind of research. There is a recent call. Students especially can look for PhD opportunities in NIT Jalandhar website. Recently we have opened. I think August 20th is the last date for filling. For both GATE students as well as for non-GATE students, we have Institute Fellowship also. I would be open for postdoctoral openings like for NPDF, PhD, women scientist, etc. And I would also wish for collaborative projects from different departments, interdisciplinary, different institutes. And these are my contact details. Thank you. Thank you once again. Yes, we can have some questions. Thank you, sir.
वीडियो वीडियो भी करो ना Hello,
Hello, sir.
Dr. Soni, are you in the meeting? Oh, okay. So there is some power problem. Dr. Soni is just joining us in few seconds. So
Sure, sir.
thank you, Dr. Nikhil, for a
Thank you,
very
sir.
wonderful lecture. I missed a parts of your lecture. Actually, I had to go to, I had my presentation in another conference at the parallel time. So,
Oh,
but I attended it in parts, and your beautiful slides I could see. I was
thank you,
parallelly
sir.
attending on another phone your session. So, Dr. Kusum, any question from your side?
Yes, I have one question. Doctor, very beautifully you have described the microbial fuel cells, and I'm happy to see that they have lots of applications also. But I just wanted to know one thing, that is there any large scale applications, or how can you see that this area can bring advancement in the current situation, and having the existing knowledge, how this can bring advancement and large scale applications, I would like to know.
On large scale, in my research, I have used only small scale at laboratory scale, but large scale applications we have also constructed and patented in my lab. I have not worked with. There is another group in Dr. S. Venkataraman's lab. About 100-liter semi-pilot plant scale we have operated with wastewater, real-time wastewater, and other groups in the world also more than 10,000 liter, wastewater, especially brewery wastewater from the alcoholic effluents were used, alcoholic plant effluents were used as a power for as a substrate. So from Australia there is a group. They're all over world. They are constructing, even in US also they're constructing large scale. So what they're proposing is the electricity which is being generated. They are trying to use it in the wastewater treatment plants. One way the wastewater getting treated, and that energy is again rerouted for the wastewater treatment process, because lot amount of energy utilized in wastewater treatment. So certain fraction is again derived through microbial fuel cells, and it is again utilized in that. So thereby the certain amount of economics is compensated.
So they are actually trying this in which country?
Yeah, in US, actually in US and Europe and Australia, very large scale constructions have been made. In India, actually in our lab, we have made up to 100 liters, this one. There is another group from Professor Gangrekar in IIT Kharagpur. I think he has also worked with 1,000 liter or more than 1,000 liter of electricity generation plant at IIT Kharagpur.
That will be very good, rather. It will be actual utilization, because
Sure, ma'am. Yes.
wastewater treatment is a genuine problem in India,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
So if we can tackle that, so it means we have achieved something.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
all the best, and
Thank
a
you so
very
much.
nice
Thank you
lecture.
so much.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you so much.
Nikhil, the lecture was well responded on the Facebook, and we have certain queries from the participants.
Sure, sir.
Let me ask, how the microbial cell has been asked by Dr. Nabi Mohali.
Sir, I'm sorry, I'm not able to hear the voice. It's actually breaking.
How the microbial for actual utility.
What utility, sir?
Hello, Dr. Nikhil. Dr. Nikhil.
Yes, sir.
Holistic microbial utility.
Speaking, ask, how would
So
he
this
would
is
like to
the network, so that's why the disturbance in the audio.
hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Dr.
I
Nikhil?
understand. I understand. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Are actually
Dr. Nikhil, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Now it is clear, sir. Please, sir.
डॉक्टर सोनी आपके नेट में प्रॉब्लम आ रही है डॉक्टर निखिल डॉक्टर
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
yeah.
how microbial fuel cell for actual utility
Actual utility.
yeah
Okay, see, microbial fuel cells, to best of my knowledge, whatever available in literature and research is going on, mostly it is utilized for the wastewater treatment. But attempts have been made also to run, low voltage equipments like for the biosensors and other sensing equipments, because it produces in low voltages and low currents. And other applications of microbial fuel cells is in for the wastewater treatment. But a modification for microbial fuel cells, which I told, by electrochemical systems, that have been largely explored recently for the different products that has been produced. Like as I showed, hydrogen production can be made, other valuable chemicals can be made using the electrochemical systems, because we apply certain potential, and that potential is one of the stress factor for the bacteria to force its metabolism for the desired product which we are looking for. I suppose this addresses to the question.
Nikhil, I will also wish to ask, if I'm right, I read somewhere that some companies in Australia are actually generating some electricity by using this microbial fuel cell. Am I right?
Sir, sorry, some part of your question I couldn't hear. Could you please repeat, sir? Sorry.
What I'm asking is, I have read somewhere that in Australia there are few companies who are already generating of electricity using this microbial fuel
Yes, sir.
system. Am I right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are right, sir. Absolutely right, sir. They are some groups, research groups. Initially, they started with research, and later on, when it found to be successful, they started with startups, and they are also trying to commercialize this technology of microbial fuel cells. Even in Belgium, also there is a group by Dr. Deepak Pant, who is extensively working on electrochemical systems and microbial fuel cells, where they are trying. They have excellent group where they are trying to commercialize, and they have some projects with Indian Oil also, where they are trying to produce electricity as well as value-added products, especially CO2 reduction into acetic acid. That is one of the project that is taken by that group from Belgium as well as the India in collaboration project is taking place.
Dr. Soni, are you with me? Dr. Soni? Dr. Soni, are you with me? Okay, so actually, thank you very much, Dr. Nikhil.
Thank you so much, sir.
Dr. Soni, you please.
Yeah, I have another question. Can
Yes,
we
sir.
convert a sewage treatment plant into a large microbial biofuel cell?
Yes, sir. Attempts are being made in that direction, where whatever the conventional activated sludge plant which is present, which is usually used for wastewater treatment, effluent treatment plants, they are trying to convert those conventional plants into using microbial fuel cell. They are trying to harvest energy. Yes, there are some literature already reported in Europe, in some Netherlands or Sweden. They are already made successful. There are some studies also made where ASP plants are converted using microbial fuel cells, where sludge reduction is reduced. Basically, in ASP, what is a major problem is you get good amount of sludge, and that sludge reduction, solid reduction is being made, and power production has been seen.
Yeah. So there is another form of biofuel cell that is enzyme based.
Yes,
So
sir.
which is better, microbial cell based or enzyme based? I mean, which is more efficient?
Sir, enzyme-based fuel cells are also present, like as usually told, but for wastewater treatment application, microbial fuel cells is a better option. The reason being that in a wastewater, you have different contaminants which is present, and if you take a whole cell, then probably the cell would have the cell wall and membrane as a barrier. Whereas enzyme fuel cells are when you have a pure substrate and you want to convert into a pure product, then enzyme fuel cells or enzymatic biofuel cells would be appropriate choice.
Again, there are two types of the microbial fuel cell. One which directly transfer the electrons. The other
Yes, sir.
one which give the electron to mediators. Which
Yes,
is more
sir.
efficient? Which is
Direct
more
electron transfer. Direct electron transfer, sir.
And which of the organisms, I mean, aerobic or anaerobic, are more suitable in microbial fuel cells?
Anaerobic organisms, sir. all the organisms used for an microbial fuel cell is mostly in the anodes. Is the anaerobics, obligate anaerobes are most preferable. Second likely would be facultative organisms.
So we have another question from Dr. Deepak Kumar. What is the future
Yes.
of microbial fuel cells in our country as alternate energy source?
Yeah,
What
as
are
I
the
told, sir,
future?
as I told, once again, I would like to say that for wastewater treatment is a very big challenge in India, like countries, because you get umpteen amount of wastewater being generated, being because India being the second largest, in terms of population, so utilization of water and generation of wastewater is high. So if we use microbial fuel cell, the rate of wastewater treatment would improve. We will get good amount of power generation, and also you can also, if you use a bioelectrochemical system, probably you will also get some value added products, and research is going in that direction. I see, especially in IIT Kharagpur, and you can see a good amount of work that is happened, especially for sewerage. They have connected in a sewerage system, if I remember rightly, and they are trying to reduce the load of sewerage and try to produce production of current in Professor Gangrekar's group at IIT Kharagpur.
So we have a last question from the audience.
Yes, sir.
Can microbial fuel cells replace batteries of the mobile phones and of the laptops in future?
Yeah, that is actually the long-term goal of microbial fuel cells. Actually, very long back when I was pursuing research, I have seen somewhere in the literature where Sony is actually working on it, because fuel cells already there, chemical fuel cells there, and to replace the chemical fuel cells, biofuel cells they are manufacturing, especially starting its low voltage applications, as I told, because biological systems they produce little bit low voltage, but if you want higher voltage, you need to stack up. So Sony was one of the company showing interest in this microbial fuel cells, producing bio batteries to in the watches, especially as cells. So you can use the cell, because conventional cells are using lithium. So that is also a kind of material which is producing radioactive kind of material. So if you try to replace the lithium ions with the microbial fuel cell, then probably certain amount of mitigation can be made, waste mitigation, e-waste mitigation.
So this was the last question from the audience. So the lecture was well responded, and I'm sure this might have added to the knowledge of the participants. So
Yes.
Dr. Naveed, you may start the next proceedings. So if he's not there, we come to the last session of today's program, that is a vote of thanks. And on behalf of Association of Microbiologists of India, Chandigarh unit, and Department of Microbiology, Punjab University, I extend a deep sense of appreciation to Dr. G.N. Nikhil for his highly informative lecture, highlighting the importance of microbial fuel cells as next generation power. Thank you, Dr. Nikhil, for your nice presentation, and I'm sure this might have been useful to the participants. I also express my gratitude to Professor Prince Sharma, the President AMI Chandigarh unit, for providing encouragement, guidance, and support in organizing this event. I would also like to extend a special thanks to Professor Kusum Ajai, the Chairperson Department of Microbiology, for her active participation for smooth running of this event. I also mention a deep sense of appreciation for Dr. Naveen Gupta, who is the General Secretary of AMI Chandigarh unit, who is also for taking the initiative of this program and making it a big success. I also acknowledge my faculty colleagues from Department of Microbiology, Punjab University, for their valuable suggestions, help, and support in organizing this event. I would also like to extend special thanks to all participants for their active supports to this event. At the end, I extend special appreciation to the core team of AMI Chandigarh unit who worked in coordination and synergistically with Dr. Naveen Gupta to make this event a great success. So with this, we come to the end of today's proceedings, and I wish a good day to all of you. So
Thank you, sir.
now it is time to disperse. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you, sir.
you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Naveen.
Some internet problems and power problems, but still I think we managed it well. So thank you very much to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks you once again. Thank you.